And a newly formed charity is suggesting that mock muggings be staged to get us all to focus on how we would and should react if we see the real thing. Witness Confident has been set up to take a stand against the walk-on-by culture. Guy Den is its director, and Paul Fawcett is head of communications at Victim Support. Good morning to you both. Guy Den, first of all, what form does a mock mugging take? What are you suggesting?
Well, all we did was, on the website, having done a survey with students, they came up with the idea that mock muggings would be something to consider, and we put that on as an idea and said that if you were to pursue it, you should discuss that with the police. But let's be serious, we're talking not about mock muggings. Last year, 852,000 people in this country, on government figures, were attacked by complete strangers.
Which was a big rise.
Which was an 11% rise. And then in addition to that 852,000, over 300,000 people were mugged by complete strangers on our streets. Now, we're in a position where CCTV cameras are finding, for each 1,000 cameras, they will detect one crime a year. In the Metropolitan Police, they've now removed witness appeal boards. So the ability of the public to engage with the criminal justice system has been dealt a damaging blow. And we're saying that you cannot combat the rise in street violence without engaging the public. And the charity is both campaigning to tackle that and providing practical help to people.
Paul Fawcett, just on the small point about the mock muggings, good idea, bad idea?
I think the underlying idea of kind of testing people on their mettle, allowing people to think what they would do in such a situation and challenge them in that way is not a bad one. But I think, as ever here, the devil would be in the detail, because our charity is dealing with 1.5 million victims of crime every year, and we know that for many people, experiences such as flashbacks are extremely traumatic. So I think with a situation like that, and we have to take Guy's point here that it's purely an idea that somebody has put forward, it's not a work-through proposal. There is a risk with a situation like that where you have a pretend crime, and actually what it does is traumatise somebody walking down the street because they see a reenactment that they don't know is a reenactment of something that they lived in a very real sense.
And also just create the impression that we are all of us under threat all the time, which is simply not true, is it?
No, it's very important. I have to say is that the government figures I actually think are surprisingly high. But, the fact there might be one mock mugging in a particular area, again, let's put that in context. We're talking about 1 million real attacks, that's the muggings and the attacks a year anyway. So we're not really adding one mock mugging to 1 million real attacks isn't going to alarm the British people. The real issue is trying to give members of the public who witness street violence the confidence to engage with the criminal justice system.
And that's the point, isn't it?
And that involves two things. The first is to dispel the myths about reprisal, and that is very important, and we will do everything we can to do that. And the second one is to reduce the hassle of engaging with the criminal justice system. And at the moment, a great many people assume that if you take the trouble to be a good citizen, it will just cause you grief. And this is not the way to reclaim our communities.
Paul Fawcett?
I think I'd take slight issue with the idea that there's a myth of retribution, because in dealing with 400,000 witnesses a year, we know that the threat of retribution is extremely real for some people. In fact, our charity over years has been, shall we say, encouraged by some of the criminal justice agencies that we work with to try and help compel witnesses to come to court. And we've always drawn a line and said we won't do that.
So you should, in some circumstances, walk on by is not a bad idea.
I think we have to recognise that for some people, if you live in a particular communities where there is a prevalence of offenders, where people know everybody else's business, the risk of reprisal for some people is real. We can't turn a blind eye to it.
That's the problem, isn't it, Guy Den? That in some cases, no amount of faked muggings, etc., can convince people, because they do believe, rightly or wrongly, that they're under threat if they come forward.
Well, the difficulty is that there's been some welcome steps the government has taken to improve the lot of the witnesses who do go to court. But they've also, quite a few of the measures have stoked up public fears about reprisal. Now, The Crown Prosecution Service says witness intimidation is very rare across the total board of crime. What we're talking about is street violence. And if I beat up my wife and she goes to the police, then I might lean on her, or my family might lean on her, not to pursue the matter. That is witness intimidation. That is what Paul is talking about. In terms of street violence, it really is not an issue. And when you get people to think about that, they realise it. So let's not, confuse the issue by talking about the risk of reprisal that might happen in domestic relationships and domestic violence, and then colour the totality. The reason street violence is so important is that the public, that is what causes the public anxiety about their own safety and their own communities. You've come up with
an interesting proposal to reduce that anxiety and to get people to come forward. Guy Den and Paul Fawcett, thank you very much.